And now we get to season 3. Now these are definitely two seasons that definitely I'll have some episodes that do have a little bit different quality in some episodes, but episodes I still find to be very entertaining. It might be one or two episodes I found to be more just okay or whatever, but we'll get to those when we get there. First, I'll start off with Backstage Rush, which basically actually shows footage of them actually poorly being in content actually inside to implement that into make an actual episode, which I don't know why I found to be actually a very unique thing actually they actually did throughout this episode. And basically the plot is basically just them also have a little subplot basically Logan tries to finish a book, Carlos ends up trying to hide a cricket they end up smuggling one in London. But of course the big crux of the episode is them basically like trying to break this record on trying to change the clothes the fastest breaking NSYNC's record, which they did end up doing the episode, and also it gets our self love basically notice that basically the trampoline is faulty and it's going to break, and he ends up trying to, but he ends up getting kicked out the rest of the man base, and then he ends up not getting back in because he ends up getting with some of his fastest patch and everything, which there's a lot of creatures yanks on that. But again, it's a very entertaining episode. You can definitely get feel a little bit of a different quality when it comes to like, the humor in certain aspects, but it's still not a great episode. Don't have to really too much to say or too much to claim about. And yeah, we get to another great episode with Big Time Returns. Big Time Returns. Basically, them actually going home with this time actually being celebrated and being welcomed aboard, obviously. And then being up there, Miss Bez actually profits on them on profits everything, obviously enjoys these like Sarah actually gets like things from it how much to make money, which Miss Ned's often not happy honestly and interrupts like certain things and then it leads to her being just a crazy being crazy towards them mostly, which is again leads to a lot of hilarious moments. And we get a fun subplot basic code to get the pick like whatever song they pick on the radio and them arguing between like Griffin and Bravo, Gustavo wants Elevate, and Griffin wants to Love Me. But he ends up picking Windows Down, which is also another bang of the song, by the way. James wants to fall in love with Lucy, wants to ask Lucy out on a date and everything, but he thinks that Kendall is. She didn't mind a thing for Kendall because he barely winked at him when he left. Try to wink, but. Yeah, and Lisa hold the real thing, obviously, which of them having like which they also debate then running a mile half naked in underwear, which is as when they actually do actually kill times. And which of all leads to a lot of like very hilarious shenanigans of love and all that. And again, it just puts a big grin on my face, and then we also get Lucy trying to ask out Camille again. Okay, but once her to be the first move, obviously, and at least to them just talking to each other, and now they're back together again. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I think I'm gonna put about the last one on. So it's another very entertaining episode. I'm not sure what is ranked amongst the actual best debate match in general, but it's still a rewatchable episode. Next episode we're talking about is Bel Air Rush, which is a very interesting episode where basically how paparazzi and everything, Stuff ends up moving them to Bel Air. And the funny they actually did this funny thing where the cow obviously parodied the theme of the French Prince of Bel Air, which I don't think I've actually watched for it time months, but I was very familiar with honestly. I got the reference. And they ended up being pretty bored obviously, and then the rules and the things everything is just not that exciting, so they want to leave, but obviously they can't. This night ends up doing issue with this faulty system, Caleb does lemonade, and kind of unintentionally not steal Fabio's lemons. And we'll see Fabio again in this episode, and then this crazy girl named Winnie, played by Rachel Crow, who I remember Nickelodeon also trying to have be a big Nickelodeon attention. She was kind of like everywhere, because I remember her being like everywhere in the first half of 2010s. Because I remember her being like everywhere, at least the first half of Nickelodeon in the first half of 2010s. And so she's definitely talented for sure in this episode. She's definitely outside this episode. She's definitely my opinion stand out this episode. But people are playing their fan base aspect pretty well actually. I can stop him killing him annoying when you're trying to have his career and bring him in, but it turns out he just yeah. So for another fun episode, I'm thinking I'm gonna put between the previous. I think I'm gonna put between the middle episode obviously, but it's still another fun episode with a fun ending as well. And we get to another fun episode, obviously, that started out basically going me out before breaking up again, honestly, because of looking up his mathematical aspect, thinking that they shouldn't pay as much, they shouldn't pay as much, and then also going out with Jet. We get also another fun little kind of self-aware, trying to think with the theme song. Oh. This couple acting trying to rest, trying to calm down because his blood pressure is way too high. Kendall finds out that Lucy actually lied to her parents about, being a rock star and thinks she's actually a violinist and everything, which and he ended up going out there with them and with her and her parents, and then Charles ends up going out there with one of the Jennifers, and then Jim tries to help him out by trying not be as tall as himself. And it's enough on episode, obviously. Like, I only has like too many laugh out loud moments, obviously, but it does have some genuine heart too as well. And as well, I'm not huge on the whole like cover girl cover they did, honestly. By the end of it, obviously, because the original much better. But I think it's going towards the bottom list so far, honestly. But it's still enough fun episode. Just again, not one whole lot to say about. And then we get to another fun episode with being big time merchandise, in which basically too much, they're basically different ones that sell merchandise much, but they also don't like it. But then also be like toy scrubbers, toilet shampoo, and dolls that say just weird, questionable stuff. So they also try to fix it and everything, trying to have like more catchphrases and have this like thing called Smellivate. Have this like thing called Smellivate. But obviously it goes like haywire, obviously, and then Crippin's doing it, but turns out they're right with the horse shampoo and that everything, which was the more shenanigans. Also gonna mention also the tree hat. Also gonna mention that they do this tree hat thing gag they also do throughout the show. When they're trying to seek it, I believe honestly they always have these like tree hats, which are it's funny that they also wear that stuff honestly, but they're just pretty hilarious honestly. And again, one of the funniest gags in the entire show. I mean, I should make a tree hat at some point, but but basically ends up with Cafe when they seek it over again, and then they end up selling those tree hats and the zombie ice squad then they calls one throughout the show, and the smell of everything, which ends up yeah. But it's enough fun episode. The only thing that really does bring us down to being towards the bottom of the ranking is probably the Katie and Biz subplot, which never really did anything for me honestly. So yeah, it's probably going towards the bottom honestly. Even though I do the much aspects actually pretty entertaining, but that subplot does kind of drag me down a little bit. And now we get to definitely some really good episodes, obviously, with Big Time Surprise. Which is definitely being a good one, obviously, where basically Kendall tries to finally ask out Lucy, and then he ends up reuniting with her ex-boyfriend who reports they cheated on her, thinking that she has changed as a good person, and when Kendall realizes that and admits that, he will be confused when Joe will come back. Basically, we see him make out with another girl, and then tries to prove innocent, but there's a lot of weird shenanigans involving that. And kind of watchable thing, because I feel like there are a couple things where I feel like this should have been really more. Really had to go for that length on scene. Honestly, we could have had this done more easily, but whatever. They had like James and Jen dressed up as girls, because obviously you can't have like freaking Nickelodeon show without that. Like, I really always get a lot of Nickelodeon shows really do that one boy throughout the show. They always have characters dressed up as girls. Have more on these shows than you think, actually. And basically, all the shenanigans lead to Jen and Lucy finally kissing, actually. And then the other opens, like, and is it Kendall? Joe? Yeah, and Joe ends up appearing. And along the way, you also get a phone call side plots of basically Katie and Miss Sniper about trying to find out basically what's going to happen next week's episode, like who's actually returning and everything. And then Kent calls in, and then Carlos and London basically trying to agree to kidnap Griffin because he wants to be kidnapped in order to see what will happen. Agreed to also having solo records and that, and honestly, and leads to them thinking they actually recycled Griffin, which again, leads to, unquote, at least and at least to that elevator scene when even they're like, so that's a surprise ending. Joe is back. Like, which well, I'm not sure that was actually what they're planning on, honestly, but it's still an entertaining episode, so it's easily going on top of the list. And now we get an episode that basically is the aftermath. And we also get this funny intro that basically kind of mimics like what actually happened. It kind of makes fun like if that actually happened, but that just makes it pretty hilarious. And at least the way a lot of opposite turns out the movie set just kind of burnt down, and now she's back. And then now Ken is confused on what he actually wants to do, like who he actually wants to choose or be around. And at least a lot of frustrations throughout that. Along the way, you also get a couple fun subplots for basically Kendall and Charlotte getting this like zombie gun thing, and then basically James and Mr. Burrs basically wants to basically fight him who gets the last bottom because he's safe in apocalypse, which is again pretty hilarious. And while it does like system on his job, but Bilbo also trying to dribble rats and everything and making him like brains. It's still pretty hilarious. And then Kate ends up only rock records like 3 hours, honestly, and to make enough shit ton of money just to get her hours, get community hours. And that leads to her getting her welcome advice to Kendall, obviously, about just taking a walk and then see what happens. And then we hear the song No Idea, which is also another banger of a song by this long length, which also fun fact honestly which fun fact it actually is a what the song actually was a cover of an all-time low song actually. I mean, I still have not listened to the original song, but that's definitely a fun aspect. And I would like to actually throughout this sequence, see there were hints I think he's gonna pick Lucy, but then he opens the door and he ends up picking Joe. Like I'm not sure what that was the plan honestly, where he was gonna have to get with Joe or Lucy or whatever, but it's actually there's a very common plot line. Like you don't really know what's really gonna happen. Like so there's definitely good and bad reasons why he should pick Joe or Lucy. He went that throughout the episode because he knew who else was going to pick. The other was going to end up leaving. And he ends up picking Joe. So yeah, another great, fantastic episode. And also, going definitely up the last one, so definitely topping the list so far. And now we have another episode that I just always love watching, and it's Big Time Babysitter. And I was always babysitting, which basically we see the gang basically babysitting this old rock star baby Lace who's like having health issues and it's prone to having heart attacks and all that stuff. And then basically Kendall Logan ended up babysitting him, honestly. And while Kendall's trying to get through the awkwardness comes to Joe, obviously, at least they're not just like happy. At least I'm good. They're like not happy Uncle Dory like after the last episode. There's like still a lot of confusion over everything that went on in the last episode. Like some awkwardness and everything. Like and all that stuff. And then, of course, the attempts at the family, obviously, when he tried to go to a picnic, and then he has a heart attack, and then basically he ends up calling her Lucy. Which, yeesh. And the song is going on, honestly. At least, like, we just start over. And all that stuff, and see where from there. And that's kind of basically what happens. It's definitely nice. And I think the Bayless character was definitely pretty hilarious. And we see Gustavo and Killer trying to help get back his green jelly beans, obviously, that he requests to be in there, but this old little rapper thing guy ends up taking all the jelly beans on because he doesn't want to get fired. And then basically James and Carlos babysitting Katie to get some toys, and then he ends up being smart and then trying to go to his arcade thing. Then she realizes more fun hanging out with them, which again is kind of funny. And the rap guys are throwing up and then doing about the jelly beans thing. So yeah, probably going between them. It's not consistently the latest episode. It's probably going between the last two, honestly. Now we're gonna get to Big Time Gold. Basically, Big Time has their first gold record, but then argue like who's actually going to get the gold record now at that. And then James and Carlos basically want to hear the record of gold, but obviously after shenanigans turns out to be just this old record's percent gold, which was right all along on that front. Like, and which gets kind of hilarious. And it's like, I'll give up on you. I guess because was yelling no good salt on 16, and then we get this like weird okay subplot where basically Katie and Bo Bauman trying to start a business or whatever, and then business coming in, which honestly I don't really care much for, honestly. And then basically we get talk about and then tonight it was Jill's birthday, and then she not end his birthday because he's 21st rhyme or something, which is kind of interesting. And then basically he ends up. And he ends up getting a gold necklace thanks to Logan, but then Camille ends up thinking it was hers, and then then it's not hard to say and everything, and then there's still a lot of shenanigans involving that necklace and everything. And then there's still homewarming, I think. Again, not one with too much to say about. It's probably going around the. I'll say it's probably going towards like below like Bass Age Rush Double D, which is near the bottom, but still a fun episode. And now we have Big Time Camping. Yeah, a camping episode. Again, it's another one that I just don't have too much to say about. Like, it's a perfectly fine episode, honestly. Honestly, it's a pretty fun episode with some fine jokes, fine back and forth, some hilarious moments of them going to camping, and trying to camping, but in the contract, and they end up going to the studio, and they're being one of those boys versus girls kind of things, obviously. There's a lot of shenanigans where Logan ends up being in a bear suit, and then Gustavo tries to rescue them, they can actually really deal with cares and everything, and then in the end, it ends up leading to only go forward, and then a lot of shenanigans on that with some fun back and forth here and there. But nothing like true memorable grand scheme of things. But we get a fun subplot with basically Katie Mrs. Knight ends up like camping out from the iPad, and then I slap, And then basically, she tries to be good for the entire episode, but and she ends up having like good karma when she ends up getting the last slap at the end of it. So yeah, probably going towards the bottom last year between like merchandise and double day, honestly. Just kind of episode, just not too memorable in the grand scheme of things. And also one thing I mentioned about time camping is that House ends up rescuing Jennifer that she hasn't met yet on, so double on one, and then they end up kissing and everything. So now this episode, big time rescue, they're not dating, but of course she's actually very controlling and all stuff, and ends up doing also not do things that are not Carlos esque honestly. So kind of things throughout the episode that basically he's being possessed or being like manipulated and all that stuff, like like under a spell. And the kiss is actually the and that the kiss is the spell that needs to be broken. And it basically comes to try to bruise out, obviously, and then they still hilarious scene where basically Joe Kenobi breaks up at Joe, but Joe doesn't know that he's doing that, so there's a lot of hilarious stuff involved in that. And then they end up succeeding and everything, and then we get like a cool fun subplots where basically James and Carlos trying to James and Logan try to basically save these dogs when it was their last thing, obviously. They got adopted and unfortunately can't. And try to give them jobs and one of honestly, and they end up getting so this end up being the next Big Time music video with Time of Life, which is also another fun song. Never one of my favorites, but a fun song. And then basically King Seven can lock and Steve, and then I find a password about something called love, but he can't seem to think about something he loves for some reason. And he finds out it's his dogs, my dogs, which is no sweet moment, obviously. I've got enough on an episode that's probably going around the middle list. Well, now we get to the finale of season 3. It's only the 12 episodes, thankfully. Actually, no specials this one that I ran on to, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we get the last episode, which is unfortunately a Blu-ray special. I really don't have anything to say about this, honestly. Just Steven and Sierra are going bloopers, obviously. I did kind of like. I kind of like that they kind of made this feel like a. I kind of love they kind of had this show where basically they end up having filming an episode, but they end up arguing who's going to burn the table, obviously, but ends up getting destroyed, and they end up having the episode. So they have a celebrity guest, which has been Chris Paul. I can't deal with your comments real quick. This was going to be obviously he never lets his pants down, and he ends up being about the end of the show. Again, it's probably going to towards the bottom, honestly. I've never been huge on these episodes. I'm not sure how Nickelodeon does them. And that's basically going to end season 3, honestly. Definitely a bit of a step down comes to the last couple seasons, but it's still pretty solid overall. I still remember the episodes very vividly, obviously. Even the worst episode, I'll say again, it's just perfectly okay. So, yeah, we got one more season left to go, guys.